The only difference today, because we're going to be graphing them, is it's going to say y equals, or it could say f of x equals. Got that?
Not sure.
Okay. Sure it gets put away. Okay. Now, we're going to find the vertex, and we're going to find the y-intercept. We have already found the axis of symmetry. We know what the axis, or should know what the axis of symmetry is, because it's been on like the last 5 Math Excel material. So hopefully that's a review for you. So if you open your booklet, it tells you exactly how we're going to find this vertex. Now, before I do that, we're going to review something. You can write this in your notebook or not write this in your notebook. It doesn't matter to me. So, if I have a parabola that looks like this, where's the vertex? Describe to me what the vertex is. It's the highest point here, and we don't say highest point, we use maximum. So this is the maximum, and it's your vertex, and the vertex to get there would have to be an ordered pair, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. The other parabola that we could possibly have is going to open up. So this is also my vertex. You don't have to write this down if you don't want to. And this is called your minimum. Now, how do I know if it opens up or opens down? Okay, so if your A value, or right after the equal sign, if it's positive, it's going to open up, so it's always going to have a minimum. And if it's negative, it's going to open down and always have a maximum. Okay? So that's a little bit of a review. So if we look at how to find the vertex, okay? And I'm going to put here the answer is an ordered pair. So you are going to have to answer this as an ordered pair, an x and a y. Now, to find the x value, you are going to use the formula, the opposite of b divided by 2a. That formula has been around because it's been on that orange poster over there since school started. It is up front. It is posted over here, and somebody wrote it over there on the sideboard too. So it's here 4 different places in the room currently. Okay? It is also on your formula sheet that you will be given for the big exam coming up here the first week in March. Okay? So you don't have to memorize it, you just have to know how to use it. Right? So, once you find the x value of your ordered pair, you find the y value by substitution. So it says sub, that's the abbreviation for substitution, which means to plug in the number. Okay? So you're going to plug in whatever you get for x to find your y value. Okay? Now, the y-intercept. If I have, and I'll write this down again, y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Your y-intercept always falls on your y-axis. If I want to point on my y-axis, the x is always going to be 0, and the y value is always going to be c. So whatever the c value is in your equation is also going to be where it intersects your y-axis. And then the last one we should know, your axis of symmetry is just a number, and that number is the x-coordinate of vertex, or of the vertex, I guess I should say. That's the same, the axis of symmetry is the same thing as what you have looked at in previous questions when you were talking about just vertex form. Okay, so we're going to go through, I'm going to do 3 examples with you, and then you guys are going to have a couple examples to do on your own. Okay, so here's the example. The first thing you have to do is label A, B, and C. They always go in alphabetical order as long as you start with x squared and then an x and then your constant term. Okay. If I'm going to find the vertex, I need to do, and I'll write it down, the opposite of B over 2A. So what's the opposite of B? What's the opposite of 2? Negative 2. 2 times A. What's the value out in front of your x squared? 1. Okay. Now, 2 times 1, 2. So what's negative 2 divided by 2? Negative 1. So my vertex has an x value of negative 1. Now, mistake that I've seen. So let's clear this up. If you have to simplify this in your calculator, you cannot do negative 2 divided by 2 times 1. That will give you, well, not in this case, but it will give you the wrong answer because you have to multiply first and then divide. There's a question coming up. It will give you the wrong answer. Okay. Now, once I find that, I'm going to substitute it in. Where do I substitute it into? The equation, the problem that I gave you. So I'm going to put negative 1 squared plus 2 times negative 1 plus 3. I can either do this in my head if I feel comfortable with it, or you can type it into your calculator just like you have. But you have to put parentheses around what you're substituting in. Because if I do negative 1 squared, that's a positive 1. If I don't put parentheses around it, my calculator is going to square that and get a negative 1. Okay? Calculator is only as smart as the person that types it in, so you have to type it in correctly for your calculator to give you the right answer. Oh, you couldn't see it. So I was showing you what I was typing in. Exactly what I wrote down is what I'm typing in. And then I press equals, and I get 2. So my vertex is at negative 1, 2. Okay, Logan? Now, my y-intercept, remember it's always going to be 0, what?
0, 2.
No, it's not 0, 2. Not 0, negative 1, not 0, 1. It's the C value of your original problem. So it's 0, 3.
Wait, so you could just, if, like, say we went on a board, we could, like, the y-intercept's always going to be that number?
Yep, always. You don't need to know the vertex, so you can get the y-intercept correct without getting the vertex correct. Okay? Okay, the axis of symmetry is going to be x equals, what's the x value of your vertex? Negative 1. So x equals negative 1. This number comes right down here. We are going to graph on the next page a different problem. Yep. So show you how to graph it. So basically these are the steps to graphing. I'm not going to go over them with you. You can look up there for when you forget or you have to reference back to your notes. Okay. What I am going to do is I'm going to label my A, my B, and my C. And I'm going to know that my formula, which is given to you on the top of that page, would be the opposite of B. My B value is 4. What's the opposite of 4? Negative 4. And then on the bottom I have 2 times A. What's A? Negative 2. Pretty positive most of you can probably multiply 2 times negative 2 in your head and get negative 4. And negative 4 divided by negative 4 is 1. So my vertex is going to be 1 something. How do I find the y value? I'm going to go back to my original equation that I'm given, and I'm going to substitute in that x value. Multiply that in your head if you can, or use your calculator. Again, it doesn't matter to me how you do it. It matters that you get it correct. So I would put -2 parenthesis 1 squared plus 4 times 1 minus 9. I get -7. How do I graph that? Graph your vertex point. I'm at 1, -7. How should this graph open? Up or down? Which way? Up or down? Down. Because the a value is negative. So it's going to open down. And now I need my y-intercept. I know my y-intercept is going to be 0.
3.
No. -9.
No, I said 3.
Yeah, there's no 3 in the problem, but that's all right. Yes? Yep. So I am going to be at 0, -9. You only need 2 points on Math Excel, and there would be your 2 points, and it would draw the parabola for you. You could also, if you remember, how do we normally do a parabola? We go over 1 and then down whatever the a value is, right? Or up whatever the a value is. If I go to the left one, my a value is -2. Don't I just touch that y-intercept right there? So it's the same way. You can do it either way. Sometimes the Math Excel questions will say that you have to graph the vertex and the y-intercept. Okay? So it have to be graphed that way. But not usually. Sometimes they do. Questions? Okay, so we're going to do one more together here. And we're going to graph it. So on your graph paper, problem number 1, you'll have to write these in. Okay, so we have A, B, and C. Okay, so we're going to find our vertex first. So we have to do the opposite of B. What's the opposite of B? -6 divided by 2 times A. What's A?
3.
What's 2 times 3? What's -6 divided by 6? -1. So my x value of my vertex is -1. To find my y value, I'm going to take my original equation and I'm going to substitute -1 in. You do not get 0 when you substitute -1 in here. What do you get? Put it in your calculator. Let's see my calculator. It'd be no, it's +3. 3 parentheses -1 squared plus 6 times -1 minus 3. -6. So your vertex, when I graph that, is going to be at -1, -6. Now, is this going to open up or down? Up. So I know my y-intercept is going to be 0, what? What is your y-intercept? No, that's your vertex.
6.
No. What is your y-intercept? What is your c value?
3.
-3. All you have to do is write your -3 as an ordered pair. So my ordered pair is 0, -3. And you have your parabola graphed. Or you could go over 1 and up 3. That's how we've been graphing it. Okay, here's your question.